Hello, and welcome to A Wealthy Life. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about legacy. I think it's particularly poignant at the moment to talk about legacy with the recent passing of Her Majesty the Queen. If you watch any of the programs on the television, you will see that everybody is talking about the difference that she's made to people's lives, to communities across the world in the last 70 years of her reign. Now, that's a very extreme, very public version of legacy. And what I want to do is talk to you today about how we mere mortals can equally leave a legacy. Now, often when we think about legacy, we're thinking about money. And so, if we were going to have that conversation, then a conversation around a financial legacy would probably take the turn of when I want to retire, how much money do I need? Or when I die, what do I want to leave to my children in the way of finances in my will? But you know that I have already said to you that we're going to live longer than we think, probably longer than some people can afford, that the old-fashioned version of we work till we're 65, the average age for men and women to die would have been somewhere in their early 70s. This is just not true. Already, people born 80 years ago are living 10 years longer than their parents. And therefore, we can assume that by the time we get to be older, we're going to easily live till we're in our 90s. And depending on how old you are, into your hundreds and maybe beyond. And one of the things that the Queen was known for was sending out cards to people when they reached their 100th birthday. She also sends out cards to people who reached their 105th birthday, because many more people were doing that as well. And that department that used to work for took on 7 new staff to cope with the volume of centenarians. It's a very hard word to say, and I probably haven't pronounced that, but people who are 100 years old. So there's that aspect of it. There's the financial. The other side of it, I suppose, with the financial is that if you are going to live a long time, the chances are that you're going to need the money that you actually have, that you make, in order to support yourself going forward. And if you are going to live until you're 80, when you're 80, what age will your children be? Potentially 60. Let's again use the example of the royal family. The Queen was in her 90s, her son is in his 70s, his son is in his 30s. So there's these huge divisions. So actually, when you pass down your wealth, you're passing down your wealth to someone who's already potentially close to retirement. Or do you bypass your children and pass whatever remaining wealth you have down to your grandchildren? Or will you also have great grandchildren, which is what the Queen's had, and my mother had a great grandchild. So all of that's going to change. So thinking of legacy just in its purest financial definition, if you like, is very limiting. And actually, if we can start to think of the word legacy as being a little bit more like the word philanthropy. So, philanthropy, someone whose business is to give to others, to come up with ideas about how they can make the world a better place. If we think about legacy as creativity, and what about the word impact? What would your impact on the world be? And I think if you start to think of legacy like that, we can also then unattach it not only from that financial definition, but also from the fact that legacy has to be so far in the future. Legacy has to be associated with a point at which you retire, which for most people is in their mid-late 60s. Now, because we're changing the definition of the word legacy, and legacy being one of the 5th principles of a wealthy life, which is why we're discussing it, that actually now the word legacy is very much about what impact do I want to have on my family, my wider community, potentially the world, and when do I want to have it? And that, I think, is more exciting. That is something that you can get behind. I think one of the reasons a lot of people don't save, a lot of young people don't save for their retirement, is because it's so far in the future. I mean, when you're in your 20s and you're getting your first few wage packages, thinking about putting money away for when in 40 something years you're not going to work is such a long time that it's just not urgent enough. And I've spoken about NLP, I'm sure, in previous podcasts, and I will again in the future. 1 second, that means that it's 3:33. Let me just switch off my clock and ask myself why I am so successful today. And maybe you could just take that moment and ask yourself why you are so successful today. If we just go back and start thinking about what does all of this mean in terms of here I am, a young person, I can't think about the future because it is too far away. And there is an NLP lesson, I'll say, that was talking about how bringing something close, urgency close, makes it more attractive. There's almost a magnetism towards it. And they talk about this in terms of towards and away from motivation. So the motivation, everything that we do in our lives, we are motivated to do either because we need to go towards something or we need to get away from something. So I am hungry, I go towards the fridge in the simplest of terms. I have a tiger chasing me, I go away from the tiger. I won't run away from danger or from fear or typically from the negative, although that doesn't always hold true because there are plenty of people avoiding something that might make them successful. That's a whole nother podcast. And you typically move towards something is positive. Again, there are some people that only move towards the negative and the destructive. And I'm going to speak to you in, I think it's the next podcast about mindset, and you'll really understand some of that stuff then. So I'm not going to go into it. So if we have this concept of we are motivated, whether it's to save for a retirement, save for a legacy, create a legacy, buy towards and away from, then what's motivating you, or what could motivate you to create a legacy? So in classic style, let's do questions. Normally I ask you to think about, and did an episode on this, to think about why is this important? And when you understand why something's important, then you can gather the data for it and you can make more sense of what it is. And then you can get in the detail of how you're going to make that happen. So if we stick with legacy for a minute, why is legacy important? Now, it is important for me, and I don't think I'd actually specifically asked myself this question before the podcast, which might have been useful. So it'd be interesting to see what I say to this. Why is legacy important to me? Is it about ego? Is it about I want to leave a good memory in people's minds when I'm no longer here? I suppose there could be an element of that. There could be an element of I want to be missed when I'm no longer here. But again, that's very much about that thing long in the future. If that's the case, and I'm not planning to die for years and years and years, then I don't need to worry about legacy now. I'll just worry about legacy in the couple of weeks before when, I might get a bit ill or a bit frail, and then I'll do something about it then. I think if you were to have been able to ask the Queen the question, for her, it was about a sense of duty. But again, they keep using this word duty. but I don't ever feel that it was onerous. Sure, it must have taken a toll on her, but I don't believe that it was onerous in a negative way. There was a responsibility that came with duty for her. But actually, I'd like to think that legacy was more in its purest sense, that it was about what can I do to help someone else today? So I have that alarm on my phone, and the question is, how have I been successful today? And the idea of that question is to ask me, what have I done today that's basically making the world a better place? Because that's the sentence that lies behind success. When I'm being successful, I am bringing together all of the components of my life. And if I look at today, is there anything that I've not got right today? If the answer is yes, it's only 3:30 in the afternoon when I'm recording this. I've still got several hours to focus on that thing that is maybe niggling, maybe not quite right, so that I can improve that before the close of today. If everything's going really well, then I can acknowledge that I've had a successful day and I can move on with that positive mindset, go to bed with that positive mindset, wake up with that positive mindset tomorrow, and do tomorrow successfully as well. And then underneath that is, so what is success? And that can change. And that's why I set that question like that, because what I'm focused on underneath success could change. So if I go away on holiday and my sole focus is to get a nice tan and to eat good food, then when the alarm goes off at 3:33, have I done some safe sunbathing today? And have I had a delicious fresh lunch, or am I about to go out for a delicious fresh evening meal? That would be the definition of successful at that point. If I was in book writing mode, have I written my target number of words? And if not, it's 3:33. How many more hours am I prepared to sit down, or how many more hours do I need to sit down in order to hit that target? Am I looking for a property to invest in? Have I done any research today? If not, then when we talk about mindset, you'll see the exercises that you can go through to work out what's stopping you. But if it's just that, I don't know, there's maybe been some drama with another property and there was some rental issue or some maintenance issue I had to deal with, or maybe there were a lot of incoming phone calls, or maybe I didn't get to look at properties because I was helping some clients with some calls, or somebody texts me, then I've still got the rest of the day in which to do it. So that's the overarching how the sentence, how have I been successful today, works. And underneath, for me, at the moment, unless I stick in other little goals along the way, the broad sense of what I want to achieve on a daily basis is to make a difference, a positive difference in the world. Now, whether that is sitting with my granddaughter, teaching her to read or to write, or to show her how to form the letter A, or maybe to do some maths with her, or looking after my grandson, or having a conversation with my daughter about something I know about that she doesn't know about, passing on some information. Equally, it can be learning something. It can be having a conversation with somebody else that improves my knowledge. How am I making a difference today? And that motivates me. I want to make a difference, a positive difference. I don't just want to be on this planet and absorb and use the resources and give nothing back in return. I think that's what it is. And I think actually, as I've said that word, the word that comes back for me is gratitude. And that's been a word that's been there for a long time. If you know the story of my marriage breakup and how grateful I was to everybody who supported me in that period, that really was a very, very powerful emotion back then. And I think that my way, if you like, of paying forward that help I received is, who can I help? Who can I help? What is it for you? What is the legacy for you? So in that whole story there, we've got Are you grateful for something that you could pay forward? And will that be what your legacy is? Whatever the specific thing is, you can come to that bit in a minute. We're only asking why at the moment. Why? Why do you want to leave a legacy? And if you don't know why you might want to leave a legacy, you're not going to get any further, are you? You're probably not even going to continue. No, I won't say that. Continue listening to this podcast, because I'd love you to stay listening to the end so that you can work through this. But why would you want to leave a legacy? What's the thing for you? Is it gratitude? Are you motivated by your family? Remember that towards. What is the thing that is pulling you towards? Because a legacy needs to be that positive thing. So it's got to be a positive motivation. What is the positive motivation that is drawing you forward towards the idea of doing something? We're going to use that word, doing something that will maybe make a difference to maybe someone. It could be that you do something that makes such a difference that it's on a bigger scale than that, or maybe it ripples through the generations, who knows? So why would you want a legacy? Why would you specifically want a legacy? Has got to be the first question that you think about. And I think in coming podcasts, I'm going to spend a bit more time on this and really dig into some more examples and some more thoughts around why you would want a legacy. I know why I want one. As I said to you, it comes from that place of gratitude, and it comes from a place of wanting to give back, of not just using and taking, and helping others, helping you, helping anybody I can help. And why not? I suppose would be the question. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to help people? Maybe again, sorry, this is obviously going to be a podcast where I'm a bit meandering, and I apologize for that, because it has actually got a very clear structure, but because I didn't answer my own question right at the beginning, it's triggering things for me. So why would you want to help others? And then I asked the question, why wouldn't you want to help others? And it could be that the next podcast that you listen to, which is about mindset, will be really important to you, because if you don't have that sense of you have enough right at the beginning, and in fact that concept is over the next 2 podcasts, I think, that if you don't have enough and you're in a position of lack, then it's going to be very difficult for you, if you live a life where you don't think you have what you want, to be in a position where you could ever conceive of helping others. And so if you do live a wealthy life, positive, creative, feeling that you have enough, feeling that you have more than enough, even much more than enough, in control of your money and your time as much as we can be, and enjoying life, then why wouldn't you want to help others along the way? So maybe the reason it's relatively easy for me to think about living a legacy rather than leaving a legacy, doing legacy now, doing what I can to help others now, is because I am so grateful for the life I live and feel blessed, honored, privileged. That all makes it sound like it was outside me that resulted in this. Grateful that all of the hard work and the effort that I've put in has been returned, so now that I can help others. So that's the first question, why? And then if that was a complicated question, this second question is equally complicated, because it's, what is legacy to you? So you've heard my definition, but also, when is legacy to you? And these 2 questions come together. And in some ways, if you don't know when you are thinking of legacy, it's very hard to describe what legacy will mean to you. And if you don't know what legacy is to you, then it's very hard to think of a time when legacy might occur. So, as I said to you right in the introduction, there are a number of ways to think of this word. There is the very classical leaving a legacy, a mostly a financial legacy. And if you leave a financial legacy, that is something that happens in the future. And with a bit of luck, because it usually would involve your death, a long way in the future. And therefore, the word legacy is something in the distant future. And therefore, what it is about finances usually, but it might be about some other stuff as you've gone along the way. So it might not just be that you leave your property portfolio, your cash balance, your shares, and your art collection to your family, because what you might do is leave your art collection to the local gallery so that then that charity can raise money by people coming in. Or it might be like one family friend we know, they run a medical company, and when they passed, because they don't have lineage to pass money on to, they have left the shares in the business to the staff in the business. Now that's a combination of a financial legacy, but a powerful gift beyond just the money. This is a gift that's going to ensure the continuity of the business. It's also going to, beyond mere money, ensure the future of those employees. And so there are very powerful stars of legacy like that, but they're out in the future. Equally, if your idea of legacy starts to formulate as mine has, which is around now, you are living a very good life, you are very happy, you are living a wealthy life, you have enough, more than enough, much more than enough, and you don't want to be in a position where you're simply taking, that you want to be able to give back. And I'm always minded to the film Pay It Forward, that the film of the little boy who created a way to pay it forward. I remember watching that film years ago, and I'll have to find the link for you. It was such a powerful movie to me. I think it really spoke to the essence of who I am. And at that time, remember, I said I was in a place of gratitude. I've been so grateful to people. I mean, one example was my friend's mother gave me her old saucepans. She didn't want the saucepans back at the end when I've used them or when I replaced them. She didn't want money for the saucepans. She just gave them to me. And I wasn't even someone she knew. I was just someone her daughter knew. It was just this stranger passing on something. Now, it's not that they had no value to her, but it was more about the gift of passing on something that had massive value to me. It meant that I could cook food for my daughters. And then when the film Pay It Forward came around, that to me must have planted that seed where I could see how I could move from a place of being, inverted commas, just grateful for the help that I'd had, to a place where maybe I could do this for others. Not give them old saucepans, but, just pay it forward. Pay it forward. Yes. Now, if I could go back and re-record the whole podcast, when I asked the question why, it would be to pay it forward, probably. So for you, what do you want to do? Do you just, and I say just, you can just think about your financial future. And if that's all you want to do right now, that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to plant the seed that says that when you come back round, maybe what you'll do is then think about how you can bring this forward, how this can be more. So yes, you've sorted out your financials, but then you'll start to wind your way back. And if you are prepared to be in a position now, or you're not prepared to be, you are in a position now where you think, do you know what? I want to do more for my family, for my community, for anything like that, then you are bringing your when forward, and you're being able to start to describe what legacy means to you. What would legacy be? So in the next episode, no, in 2 episodes time, I'm going to talk to you about some case studies. And in those case studies, I'm going to use them as examples of the 5 principles. Legacy here, obviously, is one of those principles. And I'm going to talk to you about Tom Evans, and how he is, if you like, the manifestation of legacy, philanthropy, and paying it forward right now. Because once you've understood your why, obviously, then your what and your when, you've then got to think of how can you do this legacy thing. So for me, it's working in my community, and the things that I want to work in the community to do are around environmental things and gardening and how we can bring all that together, finding easy solutions to not offset our use of the planet, but repair the damage that we may have been doing unknowingly over the years. I also want to share the insights that I have had that have helped me reach a point in my life where I am so truly grateful for all that I have, and to, if you like, open a series of doors that other people can walk through if they choose. That's what this podcast is about. It's about sharing insights to help you live a wealthy life, to get you to the stage where you are happy and more than content with the life that you've got. And what lies behind that is, because for me, life is about family, and whether that family is just you and your parents and your siblings, or whether it's you and your offspring, or whatever the word family means to you. It can mean a community for you, maybe. That when we have family, we have so much more, and therefore the idea that legacy could help that family, my family, your family, would be incredible. You know, how we could make a difference to more people as we move forward. So thinking about how you might manifest a legacy in your lifetime, let me just give you a little bit more of Tom's story. You'll, as I say, hear about him in a couple of weeks' time, so it'll be a refresher for you. Tom and I have known one another for years, probably since about 2007, something like that. And at the time, he was leaving his role in the BBC as a sound engineer. Along the way, and I don't know all of the exact chronology of it, but along the way, he started to use those skills and created a podcast called The Zone Show. So you can check out The Zone Show. And I've been privileged to be on that podcast way back in 2015. I think it was the first podcast I ever appeared on. He experimented with his thinking, touched on the spiritual, the esoteric, the esoteric, explored the meaning of tarot cards, what they meant now, masses and masses and masses of reading, and then started to distill all of this down, and using the skills that he had as a sound editor, created meditation. So he writes, he's very much, you know, what's the joke about, wrote the theme tune, sung the theme tune, and, you know, starred in the theme tune, that type of thing. Tom was very much like that. So he started writing books of his understanding. From that, he's got the podcast, which is talking about his understanding. He then got into meditation and started to create his own meditations. He then made the music for his own meditations. He then found, or was found by, an American company called Insight Timer. That's INSIGHT, Insight Timer, which is an American meditation app, probably website as well. And I believe, if I've got my facts correct, that Tom was invited to put some of his meditations on there. His meditations were very well received. And now his musings, if you like, his meditations and his music and his sharing of thoughts are literally listened to by people all over the world. And when I say listen to by people all over the world, I mean millions. He has had millions and millions of downloads of these meditations. Through that, he's then gone on to create courses, and a lot of the work that he does is free. the meditations are free. I think probably now you might have to pay to join the app, but originally all of the meditations were free. There's a lot of material on his website that's free. Things like the books and anything that he does is really about low cost, or keeping the cost low to enable accessibility. Now, part of the reason he can do this, and this is why I speak about him in a couple of weeks' time, is because he has got a grip of the other principles of a wealthy life, so that he can reside in that place of legacy, of that place of philanthropy. So I think it's really interesting when it all starts to fall into place, the power that comes with it, the momentum that comes with it. It's like pushing that stone over the edge. It just rolls. It's easy. It's effortless to be in a place of legacy, of giving back. It just becomes part of you. It becomes, one of your core values. It's your beliefs. It's part of your daily practice. You'll find that you're doing it in all sorts of ways. You'll then start and you'll notice someone drop something and you'll bend to pick it up, or someone's struggling to reach something and you'll get something off the shelf for them. And it just infiltrates every part of your life. And when you're in that place of legacy, then it's the icing on the cake that is a wealthy life. It is the wrap around the cake of your life. Must be tea time, must be hungry time. I'm using my food metaphors again, but I'm imagining this beautiful white icing wrapping a cake and making everything so beautiful, so easy, so smooth, so clear, so doable, and that's really what this is about. So I suppose this podcast is brought out of some of the sadness, and I'm going to speak to you about that in more detail next week, some of the sadness around what's gone on in the last few days, but also looking for the joy and the positive and the memories. I was chatting on Facebook with a friend, and she pointed out the Queen was an extraordinary Christian, deeply, deeply ingrained in her faith. As part of her faith, she will believe that she is going to go to heaven, and therefore she will now be reunited with her husband, Prince Philip. And therefore, if that is her belief, that would give her joy. And therefore, why are we so sad? And about how we can change this thought process, I thought was really interesting. And so what I have looked for in all of the stories that are there, bearing in mind what I'm going to tell you next week, you don't know, but I do know, that it's about what I have filtered through, what I want to take in out of the information that's going, what I want to experience from this national and international experience that's going on. And what I want to take from this is the impact a positive legacy can have, the impact this extraordinary woman has had on so many people, the role model that she's played, how even though you will see that there is a conversation about the toll that being queen took on her, in that it was beyond a job, it was a duty, it was something that was the essence of her. You're also seeing the images of the times that she's had in Balmoral and how much family time she had and how natural she was there. When you listen to all the Scottish people recounting their encounters of her, where she was laying the table. I think it was at one point when one of the heads of state went and was staying at Balmoral, and the Queen just laid the table, that she was also a woman, and yet her combination of faith, of what she was born into, of her sense of duty, so her values and her beliefs created the recipe for this incredible 70-year rain, what is our version of that? What is your version of that? What are the bits that make you essentially you? And what do you want to do with those ingredients? And it's perfectly okay if your answer is, Vicky, I just want to sort out a financial legacy for the future. And I just want it to be that I can retire with a set amount of money. And I'm quite happy to wait till I'm somewhere between 65 and 70. Or I'd like to do that somewhere between 50 and 60. That's perfectly fine. But it could be that by me planting some of the seeds from this conversation with you, that you think, I don't want to wait, and I don't want my legacy to be purely financial. I have, let me call them gifts that you can share, like Tom, skills, experiences, insights, in a way, hopefully, like I do. My insights, my musings, do they make a difference to you? Could they make a difference to you? Is listening to this podcast, I hope, I do hope, but is listening to this podcast helping you deliberately pick out and think about certain bits of your life so that in the end, you're more clear about what you want your life to be like? You're more organized and in control of the resources that you have, the finances, the time, and everything else, so that they're all working together through leverage to help you achieve the life that you want to live. And through that, if I then link all the way back to family, because when we have all of this, family is at the core of it. And we can then, or my hope, I suppose, is that families can be happy places. Families can be supportive of the children, supportive of the next generation. And, you know, everything can just be easier. If families are happier together, families stay together, the children aren't disrupted, their education isn't broken, their home is loving and supportive. And could living a wealthy life mean that actually the next generation is happier and healthier because we as parents and we as grandparents are better role models and providing that supportive environment for generations to come? And is that the legacy in itself? You know, if you're living a wealthier life, even without doing anything else, you will be demonstrating to those around you around positive mental attitude, positive financial control. All of your beliefs and your values would be shared. They will ooze out of you and they will influence others. I hope this has been useful to you. I hope that you can gain from this the insights that you need to make sense of legacy for you. That it doesn't have to be in the future. It can be whenever you want it to be. It can start literally now. And you can make it whatever you want it to be. You can draw on your values and your beliefs. You can draw on your skills and your experience. You can share overtly like I do through a podcast, or you can share implicitly through your daily behavior as a parent or a grandparent or a colleague or a work colleague or a business owner or a friend or a sister or a brother or anything that you might be. And 3/4, because I cheated, obviously, 3-4 questions to help you through that process. Why is leaving a legacy important to you? And if this podcast has moved you, then I'd love to hear your stories of why a legacy is important to you, what it means to you, and how and when you want to make it a reality. You know, how are you going to do this? And of course, if there's any help I can give, then just get in touch. So, as always, the goal has been to plant some seeds, to stir up your thinking, The next two podcasts are going to be, I wouldn't say intense. They're going to be thought-provoking, powerful next week for sure. Insightful the week after, I hope. And above all, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to A Wealthy Life. My name's Vicky Wooshea, and I hope that I've shared a little whoosh into your life this week. Best wishes.